I feel like things are more amped up because the World Cup is kicking off this afternoon, so people are super jacked into it. The first question for you is, in a World Cup year, do you guys notice that there is more attention on your game? I know you put out a World Cup edition, but I mean even on the regular one.
Yeah, I think obviously in North America, I think the World Cup gets people fired up, but obviously football is the biggest sport around the world, so the attention level is always pretty high on FIFA. I don't know if we ever get the dips and the lulls, but in World Cup year, I think the whole world is heightened and ready for the action, so I think it's fair to say that
the fever is hot, people are excited.
Absolutely, especially if, we're half an hour away from the first kickoff, so It's a pretty good deal.
People are just getting warmed up in the booth downstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're back for another edition of FIFA. It is the most popular, one of the most popular franchises, sports or otherwise. You guys have a lot to live up to. When you were coming into this year, what was the plan of how to make the game even better than it was last year?
Well, it's a tough challenge that we have every single year, so we always try and break it down into two things. We want to refine the game that we have, and then we want to innovate and push the boundaries of what we're doing. So we got four main things that we're talking about today. We're really working hard on the visuals of the game, so the graphical representation. We have a brand new lighting system that lights the pitch and the players and makes them feel a lot more like what you see on TV. Also, the pitch itself is actually going to degrade for 90 minutes. So we track all the footsteps for all 22 players on the pitch, and we know how heavy they are. If you slide tackle, you might leave a streak or tear up the turf a little bit in the rain. Think details like mud getting onto the player's pitch. We're really paying attention to a lot of little details like that to be able to bring the visual representation of the game to the next level. The second big thing that we're working on is player control. What we want to do is really work on the agility and the control of the players, get them keeping the ball a little bit closer when they're dribbling, a little bit quicker off the mark when they're just running around the pitch so they feel a little bit more explosive, basically make the game feel a little bit more responsive, full stop. We've done a lot of work in that area as well with ball physics and the way that the ball interacts with the player to really change the way that you shoot, you pass, you dribble in the game. The finer details of that make the ball feel like it's got a lot more weight in this year's game than it did in previous games, and we see a lot more variety in the trajectories that are happening in the game. And we're also, when I talked off the top about refining and innovating, we're also bringing a new innovation into the game in terms of emotional intelligence. This is a massive undertaking for us that we've never really tried to tackle a problem like this before. So the first time ever in FIFA 15, we're going to be modeling the emotional state of all 22 players on the pitch, and also the attitudes and opinions they have for all the other players on the pitch. And the point of doing this is to try and be able to tell the emotional story of every single match that happens out there. So one match to the next, you get a different experience, and the players are behaving differently. If it's a cup final and you're trying to win that match there, it's completely different than if it's a mid-table clash at the end of the season. The emotion levels will be different. Players will have memories on the pitch, so that if somebody, say, tackles you 4 or 5 times, you start to get frustrated with that player, and they'll emote and they'll show their reactions throughout the game to really keep you immersed in the emotion of the sport.
Emotions are a tough thing to tackle and a tough thing to get a hold of at the best of times. How were you able to really hone in on that and make it, I guess, authentic?
Yeah, it's been a new challenge for me as a lead gameplay producer to take on a concept outside of the obvious stuff of football that we deal with every day. So we've done some research on some white papers on psychological studies of how the mind works and what things drive emotional states and how they change over time and what are the influences of them. And we're just basically taking those concepts and trying to put them into action in the game, tracking the players' opinions on all of the events that happen. So we're tracking events for the entirety of the game and not just the big stuff like the goals and missed shots and things that everybody is easily understanding. Also simple things like if you were playing a ball to me to my feet and it's a good pass, my opinion of you is going to change. Ever so slightly, I might not applaud you or play any animations, but that's going to have an effect on my emotional state and the emotional state of all the players around you. So every little event that's happening throughout the game is going to build to tell the story of what's transpired in that 90 minutes for all of the players on the pitch.
Is this the kind of thing where certain players are known to be more emotional when they're on the pitch, so you amp it up for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Personality is always important to us. There will be calculations in our functions that determine which players are more animated. So players like Cristiano Ronaldo, who are known for flailing their arms, they're going to be a little more animated than maybe some more of the reserve players around the world who try to keep it even-keeled for the majority of the match. We're going to try and get that personality into the game this year as well.
So I know you guys hear from players all the time who are either happy or unhappy with their ratings and the way they're made in the game. Like, oh, come on, I'm better than that, or I don't do that, or don't do this. I'm pretty sure once you bring in the emotional aspect, you're going to hear even more from players now.
Yeah, it's funny about the attributes. A lot of the times what we hear is, you guys give me a little bit too much in this. And sometimes, it's surprising, a lot of the professional athletes are quite modest when they talk to us about the attributes. But I'm sure we'll get the same feedback from the guys, so that they think they're pumped up or not. But I guess in the end, the way we handle it, we have a team full of guys all around the world, in all different countries around the world, studying the players out there. So if they think they need to be more animated in the game, they're going to have to be more animated in the real world, so that we can watch them, see them, and capture that data to have the most accurate representation in our game. Like we do.
Well, if the players don't like it, maybe they need to watch some footage and see what they're actually like.
Exactly.
When you make all these changes, one of the tricky things with games is that gamers always want something new. So you try to give it to them, but at the same time, they like what they have already. So gamers are we're a finicky bunch, because we're always like, well, we want something new and different, but we like what we had before, so don't change that, but always give us something new. How do you walk that fine line and give gamers what they want, which is something new, but still what they have, and try to make the game new? I mean, it's tough to do.
Yeah, we are a finicky bunch when it comes to games. It's totally true, and it's a problem we have to tackle every single year. How much is enough change that it's not going to disturb people who are comfortable with what they have? At the end of the day, we always rely on the fact of people want a new game, they want a different experience, so we're going to push the boundaries of innovation and try and give them the best football experience we can in 1 year cycle. And that's really what we go on, knowing that there is an appetite out there for change. Even though immediately you don't maybe feel it, and you get the new sticks and it feels different, it takes 3 or 4 games to come to terms with it and be comfortable with it. Always people are looking for the next experience in football, and we're trying to give that to them. The thing that we rely on 100% all the time is that we're always relating back to the sport. And when we build features, we have that common understanding between our fans that they know if they just think football and they just think like they're out there on the pitch and how they're playing the game, they're going to be able to experience the features that we're building the same way that we expect them to. So if you take, for instance, the new dribbling system we're putting in this year, run, touch, dribbling, we really wanted to bring out the personality in players so that they can use their footedness, keep the ball close. This is something that we don't need to explain to people how to use. They just know that it's a new dribbling system, and when they get their hands on it, they're going to feel all the benefits of what we put in. They're going to feel the responsiveness and the locomotion that we put in. They're going to feel all of the improvements, but they don't have to actually go look at a manual how to play the new game. It's familiar to them because it's football. At the end of the day, we're making football games, and we're going to continue doing that and making them best and the most innovative new experience that we can.
We're talking FIFA 15 here on Got Game on the Sportsnet Radio Network. What about, I know these days it's not just traditional gaming that people want. They want the ultimate team and all the team management. Are there any changes in that area, or is it just more of what we saw before?
So there will be big announcements about that stuff. Unfortunately, I can't tell you about it today. I've been sworn to secrecy on that by some of my co-workers, but I promise you there's a team full of guys back at the studio working hard on both of those topics, and you will definitely hear some announcements from us in the coming months about it.
You can't give us anything.
I can't give you anything. I'm sorry. Come back and check me in at least 1 or 2 months, and I'm sure I can tell you all about it.
All right, fair enough. Thanks very much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.